If you're planning to start your podcast or you're looking to improve the show that you've already got, then I've got 3 things that you should be saying to help you to improve the audience retention rate and also your trustworthiness with your listeners. But if we're meeting for the first time, then hi, my name's Liam. I'm creating content about creating content, so consider subscribing if you find this information valuable. But let's get into our first tip, and that being asking your audience to rate and review your show. Now, don't necessarily go and ask them to do this straight off the bat because they probably want to hear a little bit from you to start with. But why do podcasters ask this of their audience? Well, purely because if other people are looking for a new podcast to go and listen to, then sometimes people will actually check those rating and reviews to get a little bit of an idea about what it is that they're going to be tuning into, especially considering that podcasters do other things while they're listening to podcasts. So they don't necessarily want to invest in a podcast that have got 1-star reviews or no star reviews throughout the reviewing history. Now, equally, the likes of iTunes, who have this reviewing system in place, and not every podcast distributor does, unfortunately, they do look at these reviews and gauge the worthiness of your podcast, as in whether they should be recommending that higher or lower down the list, which is also coming from the listenership that is provided as well. The next thing podcasters often do is they refer to things that they've already talked about in previous episodes. Now, this can be that they've gone perhaps into a deeper level of information on a previous recording, or maybe they're interviewing a guest and they talk about something else that has been captured before. Why are podcasters telling us this though? Well, firstly, they're trying to pique our interest in another topic that potentially would be helpful or highly entertaining or engaging for us. And why is that? To try and get us to go back and listen to additional episodes after the one we've been consuming. Now, yes, they are being super helpful by giving you some relevant information that might help you along your journey, but essentially, if you're mentioning that you've spoken about something else more in depth and it's really interesting to me, then it's likely that I'm going to go back to that episode and consume that information at a later date. So really consider doing that. Now, it might be that you're not sure on the episode number that you captured that information, and that's okay, but simply make a note to write that in your show notes and just say, I've got a link to that episode in the show notes, so why not check that out once you've finished listening to this episode here. Hopefully that will work for you to try and get people to listen to more of your podcast, which will help you to grow your show. And so moving on to our third thing that is frequently said, and that being to go into the show notes again and to follow us on other social media platforms, to sign up for newsletters, or even pointing us into the direction of other information which would help us to make a buying decision about a product or service, whether that be for a guest or for our own business or personal reasons. Now, why on earth do podcasters do this? Well, not only do they want us to go and potentially buy something from us or from a guest, like if it's a book that they've bought, but podcasters will often refer people to their products and services because you're likely to have spent a long time listening to somebody. As I mentioned earlier in this particular video, podcast listeners listen a lot longer than other forms of content, so a video such as this one. If you're watching right now, then you're in the minority because people often drop off from videos a lot sooner than you would get a podcast. Let's be honest, how many 3-hour videos do you see up here on YouTube? But with a podcast itself, when we've built that level of trust with our audience members, it's likely that they're willing to go and to follow you on other social media platforms, which is that next stage in us building that relationship with our listeners, which allows us to be seen a lot more often from our listenership and to remind them that we've got product services that are available to our listeners whenever they should need them. I hope these tips have been helpful for you. If you'd like to hear more from me, then click on one of the videos you got on screen. And if you haven't yet already, a like and a subscribe would be absolutely incredible. Give me a shout if there's anything you feel I've missed. Otherwise, have a great one.